Chapatti, thank you for teaching us to be healthy. Chapatti, that was really yummy.
Like a kid with new toys, health is my greatest joy. Come and see, come and be with our host Chapatti.
Hello, welcome. This is Food with Life.
I'm your host Chapatti, and we're here with some very, very special guests. We've done a couple shows on yoga, breath, prana or energy, and how it plays in food. And now we have some very special people to share information and knowledge with us. Our first guest is Dr. Corey Cameron, a very good chiropractic doctor here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and a very special yoga teacher, Mr. Steve Sperber, who's a nutritional consultant and has worked with many people on yoga, and he's a teacher of something called Art of Living Foundation and breathing. Welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you here both. Tell me, Dr. Corey, if I might ask you, dealing with people from the whole physical structure, you know, the organs, the whole anatomy of the body, is there something you can draw a generalization to say from your dealing with these people, that the difficulties, the problems people have, can you put it in a way that is any one particular thing that people need to focus more on, or a few things that people need to develop to help their body to heal?
The biggest thing I see in my practice is that we are living in such a toxic world, and the toxicity doesn't just affect the physical body, but it affects the mental and emotional body. So the biggest gift I can give someone is things that help them to detoxify and cleanse, because once the body has detoxified, the body heals itself.
So I notice you say, though, the emotional body. I think what I've seen most, I'm not expert, but we always deal with the physical body. And I don't know if there is a strong tie with this emotional body. But I don't know if many people realize this. Do you think it is a very common knowledge? Because I'm wondering if you can say something about the emotional body. This is our feelings,
Right.
mental attitudes and things of this kind.
I think that because how traditional medicine takes us into pieces, and we have a doctor for the feet and a doctor for the hands and a doctor for the heart, we forget that it's all one. So the emotional body is a whole part of our physical body, and when the physical body is in pain, in turmoil, the emotional body follows suit. So you can't separate one from the other.
Steve, from your experience being a yoga teacher, can you draw some particular angles that people you find from your development with the body and people's exercise through yoga, the weaknesses and the imbalances, and how it can be possibly adjusted to create a more holistic betterment of the individual?
Yeah, what I see is when people come, we all have this tendency of wanting to push one button or take one pill and everything will be fine. And sometimes I emphasize you have to have a little patience and persistence. And sometimes I deal with people in a wheelchair and they can only move this far. But after 3 months of working with them, they go all the way this far. And that might not be much for us, but it's huge for them. So I find developing a little bit more flexibility in the body, and also that loosens up their attitudes a little bit. They can see progress in their body, movement in their body, and then also working with the breath. That's a significant thing.
I've learned people say they do different breathing, but can indeed the breath make some strong impact on changing the physiology?
Yes, very much so. We take the breath for granted. You know, we can do without solid food. There are some people, if you've seen Survivor, they could do without solid food for weeks. We could do without water for 3 days. But how long, Chapatti, can you do without breath?
Let me see. I better stop. Not very long, not very long, a short time.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so the way that our mind is, the quality of our mind affects our breath and the other way around. So if you've observed when you go into either a state of fear, someone puts a gun behind your back, God forbid, you freeze, you stop breathing. And if you laugh, if you see a funny comedian, there's a certain pattern to the breath. And when we're in love, there's a certain pattern to the breath.
We're going to take a break.
Okay.
I want you to hold that thought
Hold my
about
breath.
love, about love,
Okay.
and we'll begin it when we come back, yes?
Yes.
Stay with us. I'm your Chapatti with our wonderful guest.
This is Food with Life. We'll be right back. Hello, and welcome back to Food with Life.
I'm your Chapatti, and we're here with our very special guests. One is very special yoga instructor, Mr. Steve, and a very special doctor here, Dr. Corey. And you were taking something about, we were talking about love and the importance of love. I know love we associate very much with a feeling and relationship probably with heart. Tell me more about it and how it perhaps could be helped or encouraged or developed through yoga.
Great question. You know, we're all born with the capacity to love, and as infants, you know, it's been found if you don't give love to an infant, they don't develop. When do we lose the ability to give and receive love? Never. So what I find in my experience is that stress and strain, anxiety, tension tends to block the expression of love. So what yoga deals with directly is removing the obstacles, you know, the tension, anxiety, and when that's freed up, our nature is love. So it flows quite easily.
You mean our nature? You mean if there's nothing, there's only love? Is that what you're saying? I'm not sure what this.
Nature is love. If you watch an infant, you
Yes.
know, they're not very complicated. Very
Yes.
simple. As we get older, we get more into our head and we make distinctions. An infant doesn't make so many distinctions. You can gaze into an infant's eyes and just feel that love. It's very, very basic. And so what happens in yoga, when the mind settles down and the body gets relaxed, we're more in the present moment, and that essence is there, more available. It's always there, but we don't perceive it because of the blocks, the stresses, the strains.
It is probably not so easy to be in this moment now. Is it something right?
Yeah, everybody goes through the same experience. You
Yes.
want to stay in the present moment, but you're worried about something that's going to
Yes.
happen. You know, your job, your rent, something, relationship. And what yoga does so beautifully is it brings the attention to the body. You know, go like this for a second. Just go like this. Where is the body? Is it in the future or the past? It's in the present. And the breath, it's in the present. Mind could be anywhere.
So indeed, what would be the correlation for the health and healing by being more in this moment if we're not always thinking ahead or behind?
By mind going back and forth like that, it tends to sap our energy. We have an overabundance of mental activity. And sometimes you probably experience this yourself. If you're worried about something and the mind is very active,
Yes.
we get very tired. But when we're rooted more in the body and we're breathing properly, we're more grounded in the present moment, more energy is available. We don't get as tired.
Interesting. Good. No more fatigue,
Exactly.
more energy. Dr. Corey, what could you say about this, perhaps in the sense of love and this, what you call maybe the bonding together of people, and when it is stopped or blocked, it's what the toll is on the physiology. Can you say something here?
One of the things that I find in my practice is something I call broken heart syndrome. So when a broken heart, whether it's through trauma, an emotion, an event, something happens in your life that you're just not able to handle, and it causes such a change in physiology that it's like the heart is locked in the chest cavity and it freezes. So the symptoms can be a whole number of things, but I've had women actually have organs being pushed out of their body. from the pressure and the heaviness. And so by getting the body back in balance, and what I use is something called bioenergetic synchronization technique, the acronym is BEST, and it helps to balance the nervous system by also tapping into the subconscious. So there's things that we're carrying that we just don't even know we're carrying. And it's amazing to see the relaxation that happens for people when we tap into, by using some words, by using some eye movements, where things are locked in the brain and released. And breathing is a huge part of it. So we get the patient starts to breathe in a certain pattern, and it releases this negative emotion from their body, and they feel like a new person.
Perhaps not many people are aware of the breathing. It is right in front of our nose. You know, it is right here, and they're looking everywhere around.
Right.
Yes?
Yes.
They're looking for this, for that, the doctors, the pills, all the thing, but the answer is it could be, I don't know if it is, but it could be in the breath, you know?
A big part of it.
Yes. So I tell you what I think we're going to do. We're going to take a short break again, and then come back and explore more about the breathing, and maybe you can give us some answers to getting more healthy. Is good?
It's
Very
good.
All right, stay with us. I'm your host, Chapatti.
This is Food with Life. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to Food with Life.
I'm your host, Chapatti, with our wonderful guests here. And we've had some very interesting knowledge come out. Just a minute ago we were talking about healing, but healing about something which we're not aware of very much, and that is breath and breathing. Mr. Steve, you know something a lot about, you teach these breathing programs. Can you say something about breathing and healing and the effect it has?
Yes, through the Art of Living course that's taught all around the planet, 150 countries. It's done over about a 4-session course, about 20 hours. Certain breathing techniques are learned. You know, we say, why do we need to learn to breathe? Because we're not breathing properly. If you watch children, their bellies move in and out. They have like 100% of their lung capacity. They're breathing abdominally. But as we get older, our chest gets sunk in and we breathe chest breathing. We're only using like 30% of our capacity.
That's all, 30%, yes?
Yeah, but about 80% of the toxins can go out through the breath. So if we're only using 30% of the lung capacity and 80% of the toxins go out through the breath, it means we're holding on to a lot of toxins. So the first thing we want to do is expand our lung capacity, which gives us a lot of energy. And there are breaths or breathing processes that are taught that could energize the body, calm the mind, flush out toxins, and bring people to the doorway of meditation or peace. So it's very practical, because you could do that on a daily basis and then take some of those benefits out into the world. So it really comes into play when you leave the chair and you interact in your life.
Do these benefits that it brings about happen in a quick way, or does it take some time for this? Do you know anything about this, Dr. Cody?
Yeah, that's part of what we do also in my practice, in rhythmic breathing we call it. So you breathe in to a count of 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, hold it out for 4.
I see.
That's incredibly relaxing and centering to the body. Piecing, the mind becomes very peaceful, and you can start to almost meditate with that type of breathing. And it quiets the nervous system. So your brain can sort of reorganize, and it reintegrates the brain as well.
So how does the breath deal with this to resolve or help to push away conflict? Do you have any ideas here, Mr. Steve?
Well, one of the things is, you hit on something, it's everybody's experience. The job of the mind is to think, okay? So we don't have conflict in yoga or this breathing process. What it is it's like a dark room and someone turns on the switch. A second element is brought in, light is brought in. So when you start to do this breathing processes, okay, it sort of like gives a mind a chance to relax, to settle back down to its source, which is silent. And this is very practical. So you could do it on a daily basis. So you do everything you do in life, you just add something, a nice habit, a little bit of an investment. A few minutes a day makes a huge difference in life.
Sometimes, I'm myself, I only think about myself, but when I'm silent, I get bored. There's nothing for me to hook onto.
Right.
So what is to say is this silence is a a state of contentment, or it's a state of boredom. You know, can you say something here, Dr. Cody?
We were talking about that. Steve was talking about how sitting outside, you hear the sounds. When you get peaceful, you hear the sounds, you see the birds flying. We miss most of what's going on in life by being so busy. And what you were talking about before about doing something to get to the next thing. We don't experience a shower because we're taking a shower to get to work. We have to think, okay, I gotta go now, so I'm getting out of here and that's what I'm gonna do next, but we're never where we appear to be.
In that moment.
Right.
In that moment, here and now.
Right, we're missing life.
Yes.
We're missing a whole experience. So it's a gift, it's a practice that we should all be working on to quiet the mind. And it does feel boring at first.
I know sometimes I sit in the factory where the breads are, and I sit there waiting and nothing happens. And I'm wondering, the thought is, what am I doing here? You know, I see the breads going round and round and round in life. It's like the same with life is going round and round and round. And I'm wondering, what is it about this that I'm enjoying? We're going to do one more piece here, and I want everyone to stay with us. So you'll see it one more time around?
One more time around the bread.
I am your Chapatti. Stay with us. We'll be right back with our wonderful guests and learning about being in the moment and enjoying yourself.
This is Food with Life. Hello and welcome back to Food with Life.
I'm your Chapatti, and we're here with our special guests, Mr. Steve and Dr. Cody. You know, we talk about this being present, but indeed, in a level of practicality, how does it happen? I know I'm sitting here, and my mind is going back and forth, wavering. How do we do this to ourselves? How can we make this a permanent condition?
You know, what I tell my patients is you have to start being sort of like a narc, like a narcotics agent, to your mind. And you have to really police your thoughts. And at first it's an effort because we're not used to it. We have to think, okay, what am I thinking about now? Okay, why was I there when I'm here? Even in yoga class, I find myself sometimes far away. And we're in some compromised postures sometimes. And it's like, how can I not be here when I'm standing on one leg with both arms going in opposite directions? But it happens. And you don't beat yourself up about it, you just bring yourself back to the moment.
But isn't this a condition that the nervous system is bringing forth to you?
Well, it's because we're so busy and we're so harried in our lives. It's something that we have to work at. It's not going to come naturally because we're not taught that. If we were taught that as children, like Steve teaching yoga classes to children, getting children to be focused and centered would make a whole different adult in the world.
Yes.
So as adults, we're so used to not being where we are. It's an effort and it's a practice and it's something that you have to work on diligently every day.
Yes.
And then it becomes more natural to be present.
I have to say, we have not too much time, but I know from my readings, difficult cause of all this is the famous word, stress. So, if we have no stress and none of these physical problems, the moment would be here easier, yes?
It would be, but that's not reality.
Not reality.
So being that reality is stress and dealing with it, finding a way that keeps us healthy is important. So if we pay attention to our thoughts, we can find a positive side to a negative experience and focus on that and keep bringing ourselves back so that we don't create more stress. Because if we center our minds, we can de-stress.
Well, what about some programs that they have? I've read about programs to help relieve stress and throw it away from the body. Do you have something about this, Mr. Steve?
You have to go by your own experience. Very wise man once said, there's so many techniques out there, what do you do? And my answer would be, you do what works for you. What works for you may not work for me.
Yes.
You know, I like to swim. When I come out of the ocean, I always feel better unless there's a shark chasing me. But typically, if I go in fatigued and I come out of the ocean, it's like magic. I feel great. So everyone has to find their own ways to naturally feel better. Some people love to dance, some people love to sing. But certain things about yoga goes through the whole population. When you take a yoga class afterwards, you should feel really relaxed, yet alert, energized, smooth, wonderful.
Yeah. So the answer probably is more, you think, in yoga. What about, I've read about processes of meditation, self-development program.
Yeah, meditation is another form of yoga. Again, meditation is coming back to the present moment and watching your mind go everywhere else and just gently bringing your mind back. It's really accepting more than anything. So it becomes less of a fight.
Right.
As soon as there's a fight, oh, I should be doing this, I should, and then that's where all this stuff starts. It's a mess. But if you can accept this is the mind, this is the way it is, almost watching a movie, you create a little space and you can start to laugh at it a little, make it an entertainment.
Very much acceptance rather than trying to push it out or change.
Right.
I very much want to thank you very much for being here, Dr. Corey Cameron,
Thank you.
Mr. Steve Speber. My honor to have you here. My honor to have you here to share the benefits and wisdom of prana breath and how it can change our physiology and yoga. I am your host Chapatti. Very nice to have you.
Thanks for watching Food with Life. Have a wonderful day and a very wonderful evening.